If you're interested in sewing your own patterns, a gored skirt is a great place to start. This flowy style is made from 4 panels or goreds, 4 or more panels or goreds, and is really easy to fit as you go. Just very pro-gored. Go goreds! The basic structure is 4 trapezoids, which make up the bulk of the skirt, plus a long skinny rectangle, which becomes the waistband. If your closure is going to sit between 2 panels, all trapezoids could be identical. In this example, I'm going to put a zipper in the middle of a back panel, so I'll have 3 identical trapezoids and 2 that are half the size, plus a half-inch seam allowance. For a 4-gored skirt, divide your waist measurement by 4 and add 1 inch to account for a half-inch seam allowance on either side. This is the top of your trapezoid. For the height, add 5 or so inches to your desired skirt length. This will account for seam allowance and give wiggle room to add curve to the hem later. The bottom of your trapezoid depends on how much flow you want in the skirt. In my example, the bottom of the trapezoid is 3.5 times longer than the top. For more flow, but also more weight, make it even bigger. For less movement, make it a little smaller. If you want to put a closure down the middle of one of your trapezoids, you'll need 2 pieces that are half the size of the other 3 trapezoids. It's not exactly half though, because you need to add a half-inch seam allowance to the side that has the right angles. Now it's time to test the fit. Sew all panels together along the long sides, leaving about 12 inches unsewn wherever your closure will ultimately go. Try it on and use pins to mimic the closure. Decide where you want it to fall on your hips and pin away any extra material. If you need to take in a 1/4 inch or so, you could slightly reduce 1 or 2 seams and no one would notice the difference. But if you're taking in much more than that, I recommend you do a little bit from each seam. I decided I wanted to take off 3 inches so that it would fit a little higher on my waist. So I sewed the top of all my seams again, starting 3/8 inch further in from the raw edge, meeting my first sew line about 12 inches down. At this point, you could finish your seams and attach the waistband, but you know I had to add pockets. So instead, I used my seam ripper to undo the top part of my seams and used the top 12 inches or so of one of my goreds as a template for a pocket backing. To assemble, I used a bit of bias tape to finish the top of my gored and serge the bottom of the backing. I laid the gored on top of the backing so that together they were the same height as my other goreds again. I made sure it was nice and flat and sewed it in place along the sides and bottom, then I finished all my seams. I trimmed the top into a nice curve, then attached a traditional waistband and an invisible zip, then I hemmed it.